Hi, welcome to Lullaby. I'm Laura and we're going to be felting some mushrooms today. First thing that we need to do is to make the base shapes for the mushrooms. And that would be a sphere for the top that's cut in half and an oval for the bottom. So we take some stuffing, wad it up in a ball, take sewing thread, and this is going to be used to bind the stuffing into the mushroom cap. So just pull it slightly so that you have a firm ball of stuffing. You then take red wool and with your handle and 4 needles, which speeds up your process greatly, felt red wool all over the ball. Now, a time-saving tip that I have for you is you can take your felted pieces and you can wet them with warm to hot water, squeeze out all the water, and then put them in the dryer, and the dryer action felts your pieces for you. Really firmly and smoothly, saves you a lot of time. The more you felt something, the smaller it becomes and the harder it becomes. So if you want to smooth something but not necessarily make it smaller, you use your needles differently. Instead of felting straight down like this, which is going to make my ball smaller, I want to make this less fuzzy. So I'm going to take my needles and at an angle, I'm going to felt it across the wool. I'm really only felting the wool, not so much the stuffing underneath. And this smooths the wool. And I like my pieces to be hard and firm. I don't like the fluffy, soft pieces so much. Also, if you felt something in the dryer, it kind of makes a crust on top. It makes the wool really firm, and it's a good base. Okay, once the ball is felted and smoothed, take a pair of scissors and cut it in half. So you'll have possibility of 2 mushroom caps here. Now, as you know, mushrooms come in many shapes and sizes. So once you know the basics of how to make this mushroom, you can use different colored wool. You can make them really large. You can make them really small. There's endless possibilities for making mushrooms. When you take the stuffing out, make sure that you don't take all the stuffing out, because the stuffing gives you a little bit of bulk. It makes the cap so that it's not too flimsy, and you're actually to sculpt it when you're felting. So the inside of the cap is white, which you'll felt on like this. Now when you work with stuffing as your base shape, a lot of times there's bleed through. So now when I turn this cap over, I'm probably going to see a lot of white wool sticking out of the red. It's starting to stick out here. Once I finish this cap, there'll be a lot of white sticking out of the red. And the way to fix that is just to cover it back up. Cover the red back up with more wool, and then felt it at an angle so that your red doesn't come back through into the white wool. Just smooth it. Okay. Now we cut this circle, we cut this ball in half. So where we cut it with the scissors, it's frayed. You really should never cut wool, but for special reasons, special effects, we do. So when we try to felt this back, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to felt. So you could take some red and put it around the edge like this, just a little bit. So felt the edges in. Okay, once your mushroom cap is felted, it'll look a bit like this. You can make it curved, but I've made mine mostly straight across. Then we take more stuffing and we bind it into a stem shape. So I've been liking to make the top of mine kind of narrow and the bottom more fat. So we start covering the stem with white. We felt the whole stem in white, and when we're finished, it'll look a bit like this. Now here I want to smooth the stem, so not change the shape. So I'm going to felt it with the needles at an angle to smooth it. And you see that this mushroom stem is large on the bottom and small at the top. It's a little bit more realistic than the straight stems. So before I put the stem on, or the cap on, I want to put the little dots. You can make tiny dots or you can make big dots, however you want it to look. So with a single needle, I take just a pinch of white and I roll it up in my fingers, kind of like a small ball. And I put it on there. Sometimes I even use small seed beads as dots instead of felted spots, which is a different look, but it's nice. And one more spot. Okay, now turn over the cap, put the stem right in the middle, and then I think this is fairly large, so sewing it on with a needle and thread might be a good idea. But right now, it will also work just to felt it on. Take white, and where the cap and the stem come together, felt white all around there. And that's going to be pretty sturdy. I don't know if it's for a very small child, if they'll be able to pull that off or not. And just a little bit more so that it blends together really naturally. And there you have mushrooms.